Hello everyone and welcome to my Bachelor Nation 24 channel. I hope everyone is having a wonderful day. Before we begin, please hit the subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up. Why General Hospital's Lucky and Elizabeth can never be together again. General Hospital has made it pretty clear that it intends to officially reunite Lucky Spencer and Elizabeth Weber, but the show has now thrown an almost insurmountable obstacle in their way. General Hospital screws things up already. Even before Lucky, Jonathan Jackson, arrived back in Port Charles late last summer, we knew it was coming as his Liz dream in Jen Sidwell's Carlo Rhoda African prison was a pretty heavy anvil being beaten over our heads. Although it's been slow going since then, things are speeding up with Lucky moving in with Elizabeth Rebecca Herbst. The problem is, he is not the man she thinks he is, and we don't even understand what is going through his head. Lucky is keeping a massive secret he doesn't have to keep. When Elizabeth learns the truth, how can she even forgive him? Why keep Christina's secret? Who is Christina Corinthos Davis, Kate Monsey, to Lucky that he thinks he has to protect her from her own stupid and insane choices? She is his boss at a bar, and they barely knew one another before he returned to town, mainly because Christina was born when he was already an adult. Lucky's first instinct was to protect Christina after he first saw the crash and knew what she had done, but then became angry when he realized Elizabeth was one of his victims. When it was just Rick Lansing, Rick Hurst, what Christina did seemed to be okay with him. Then, for some unknown reason, Christina's whining convinced him not to say anything the next day. Elizabeth has learned to trust Lucky again and thinks he would never keep secrets from her or lie to her. But now he is protecting the woman who nearly got her killed. Rick is also keeping Christina's secret, but for his own selfish reasons, as he helps Maura West extort money out of Alexis, Nancy Lee Grana. However, Liz is used to this kind of behavior from Rick. She has also not fallen back in love with him as she has with Lucky. Too bad he is lying to her every day while protecting someone who doesn't deserve to be protected. How can Liz ever truly be with him again? Once upon a time, in the cobblestone corridors of General Hospital and the candlelit backstreets of Port Charles, a young love story captured hearts across the world. Elizabeth Weber, the rebellious teen with a bruised soul, and Lucky Spencer, the noble-hearted son of a legend, were a couple for the ages. Their love wasn't just written, it was carved into soap opera history with tears, tragedy, and timeless kisses under moonlight. But as decades passed and destiny kept shifting, so did their chances of ever finding forever. Let's be honest, Lucky and Elizabeth were once the very definition of fate. They had the innocence of first love, the trauma that bonded them, and the kind of poetry only pain could write. But now, that poetry reads like a haunting echo of what once was. The truth no one wants to say out loud: Lucky and Elizabeth can never, ever be together again. Not because the fans have stopped believing, not because the writers have forgotten, but because time, tragedy, and transformation have moved them past each other in ways that love can no longer fix. Lucky Spencer, the ghost of what could have been. Lucky was once the idealistic boy who swore to protect Elizabeth from the world's darkness. But life turned him into a wanderer, a man chasing redemption in the jungles of Ireland or vanishing into the horizon whenever his heart got too heavy. He loved Elizabeth, yes, but he also loved to disappear. He became a ghost in his own love story. And every time he returned, broken, wiser, remorseful, he found Elizabeth changed. Older, stronger, wiser, and maybe, just maybe, a little bit less his. Lucky's love was real, but it became unreliable. A promise made in candlelight but broken in daylight. How do you build a future with a man who's always running from his past? The boy who once made Elizabeth believe in heroes became the man who couldn't be hers. Elizabeth Weber. Too much history, too many scars. Elizabeth isn't the same girl who met Lucky at Luke's club in the late 90s. She's endured grief that would destroy most, losing her son, burying lovers, surviving betrayals. Her heart has been stitched together so many times that the scars are now part of her strength. She's not waiting for a savior. She is the savior now. For her kids, her patients, herself. And with each of Lucky's disappearances, Elizabeth learned something painful. She didn't need him. Not anymore. She's found different kinds of love since, some good, some toxic, some tragic. But through it all, she's had to be the constant, the strong one, the one who stays when everyone else leaves. If Lucky were to return now, he wouldn't be met with open arms. He'd be met with a woman who has had to put her life back together too many times because of him. Their chemistry, still there. That will never die. But chemistry doesn't build trust. And without trust, love becomes a haunting. The curse of what if. Lucky and Elizabeth are haunted by the curse of what if. What if Jake hadn't been presumed dead? What if Lucky hadn't fallen into addiction? What if he'd stayed when she needed him most? Their love story is one of near misses and could have beens. They're a museum of romantic tragedy. Every time the stars align, reality tears them apart. Maybe it's the universe's way of protecting them. Or maybe their love was always meant to be a season, not a lifetime. Even now, whenever Lucky's name is whispered, you can feel the air shift around Elizabeth. Her eyes soften. Her guard lowers. The ghost of who they were brushes past. But she doesn't chase it anymore. Because she knows ghosts can't raise children. Ghosts can't make dinner. Ghosts can't show up day after day and prove they changed. And Lucky, wherever he is, probably knows that too. Too much water under the bridge. They say love is patient. But patience doesn't mean martyrdom. Elizabeth has moved on. Not just romantically, but spiritually. She has 3 sons now. And they need more than a charming man who shows up every few years full of regret. They need stability, routine, roots. Lucky represents the opposite of that. He's still too much like his father, restless, reckless, romantic in a way that always ends in wreckage, and Elizabeth has already cleaned up his messes. More than once. Their past is a river with too many storms, and trying to cross it now would only drown them. The legacy lives. But not the love. The beauty of Lucky and Elizabeth is that they'll always matter. Fans will always whisper their names with wistful hearts. They were the Romeo and Juliet of daytime, minus the poison, but plus the paternity drama. Their love will always echo in the halls of GH, in Jake's eyes, in the way Elizabeth still pauses when someone brings up Lucky's name. But some love stories aren't meant to have sequels. Some love stories are perfect precisely because they ended. And if Lucky were to come back, truly back, it should be for his son, for his peace, for his own redemption. Not to rekindle something that has long since burned down and been rebuilt into something new. Elizabeth doesn't need Lucky to complete her story anymore. She is the story. And Lucky? He's the chapter that made her stronger, and then let her go. The final word. In another life, Lucky and Elizabeth would have grown old together. He would have stayed. She would have trusted. They would have laughed at how dramatic their teenage selves were. But this is General Hospital. And here, love stories are as fragile as hospital charts and as dramatic as a Cassadine family reunion. So no, Lucky and Elizabeth can't be together again. Not because they don't love each other, but because they've already given each other everything they had. And that has to be enough. Because in Port Charles, the truest love stories aren't always the ones that last. They're the ones you never forget.